Hello, my name is Michael McDermott, and today we'll be learning about how to start your own compost pile. This is Unit 3, Lesson 2 of the Myers Green Earth Kids Club project. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to plan out and make your own compost that you will eventually add to your own garden. You will also learn the value of ordinary household items. To get started, you're going to need the following materials: either a hammer and nail, or a drill with a drill bit, a 32-gallon garbage can, and an equal amount of green material and brown material. We'll be talking about those materials a little bit later on. Also, not found on this slide is a water supply and some bungee cords. Your first step is going to be making holes in your garbage can. You'll need to make your holes about 6 inches from each other, either using a drill or a hammer and a nail. Holes should be all around the garbage can except for the very bottom. For the next step, you'll need to start collecting your materials. And we'll be taking a look at the materials that you'll be able to collect a little bit later on. Now, this is a process that you're going to be doing throughout the use of your compost pile. On the left side here, we see a garden bed that has plenty of weeds in it. All these weeds can be put in your compost pile. On the right side, we see some green material that's being dumped into a pile. These can also be used for your compost pile. And these materials are going to be materials that you get from your kitchen. Other materials that should be added are also some green leafy materials, and these materials that you see on your left side I actually pruned off of a tree. And on the right side I have some dirt and ash kind of mixed together as well, and you're going to need a little bit of that also to get your compost pile going. This next step is optional, but it will help you for your compost pile to cook a lot quicker. And that's cutting up your materials. And this part can be a little bit messy, especially if you use a lawnmower. And what I did on this step was I brought my lawnmower in and placed it on top of my brown materials and cut them up a lot finer. As well, I put them on top of my green materials and cut those up as well. And because I have a lot of ash in there, it got really dusty. So this step is not necessary, however, it will help in the breakdown of your compost pile, and you'll be able to have compost a lot sooner. After we cut up our materials as fine as possible, we start adding them into my garbage can. And on the left hand side we see the green materials being added, and then on the right I'm actually using a bag of store-bought compost already prepared. This is actually manure that I was able to buy at Walmart for about $1.50. And I added about a half a bag of this material inside of my compost pile. Now, when adding your materials, try to alternate your layers and make each layer about 4 inches thick. Now here we see a list of different items that you should put in your compost pile. The brown materials, these are going to be high in carbon, which is going to be what needs to be broken down. We have ash and wood, just to name a few: ash and wood, some corn stalks, newspaper that's shredded up, some sawdust, some straw, and vegetable stalks. On the right hand side, some of the things on here are alfalfa, algae, coffee grounds, food waste, hay, manures, seaweed, and some vegetable scraps. Now, as we're adding our compost to the garbage can, we need to keep it plenty wet. And a rule of thumb on this step is that you don't want to have so much water that it's flooding with water, but you also don't want to have it too dry, because this compost pile is going to need water so it'll break down. Now, the rule of thumb here is that when you touch it, it should feel wet, just as if it were a wet sponge. So when you look at it after adding water, you should be able to put your hand down in there and see that it's just get your hand a little bit wet and a little bit dirty. But if you see puddles of water in this compost pile, you added too much water. By that time you should just stop adding water and let the water leak out. Now on the right hand side we see the water starting to run out of the holes. And what we need to do here, which is a good idea, most likely your garbage can is going to be on a slight hill. Turn your garbage can around so the holes, so the water can be distributed throughout the garbage can. Now you'll need, of course, cover up your tank, and on the left hand side we're just covering up the top, but on the right hand side we're putting a bungee cord on there. The reason for the bungee cord is that within about a week we're going to need to start turning our compost, and basically we'll put it on its side. And this step you'll definitely need an adult to help you out, because if your compost pile, this compost pile is about halfway filled and is very, very heavy. But we put it on its side and just roll it a little bit. And as you can see, the lid is starting to want to come off. That's why we use the bungee cords to keep it on. Now the reason why you'll need to turn your compost is that a lot of the materials that's going to be stuck in the middle of your barrel won't necessarily be touching other materials. Your green materials need to react with your brown materials. So that's really the reason why you need to turn your compost from time to time. Now, you're going to know when your compost is ready because a lot of the material, the original materials within your garbage can are going to be so broken down that you won't be able to recognize them anymore. You won't be able to tell that you had a leaf in there, or you won't be able to tell that you had some corn stalks in there because they're going to be so well broken down. By that time, your compost will be ready to be put in your soil and used as a fertilizer. Your assignment for this project is going to be the following. Look on the internet for different websites explaining how to make compost. Send the link to the instructor so it can be added to the club website. Also, you're going to create your own compost pile using the directions from this lesson or any other lessons found on the internet. Write in your journal materials used and steps taken. Thank you and have fun gardening.